Okay, so welcome back everyone to the Black Carnivore podcast. I am really, really excited to bring this guest today. We have Porsche Emile, and she has just such a fascinating story, and it has been such a delight for me. I think, she came to the community early on. I think it was in June or maybe in July, and, she's had such a tremendous transformation and so much inspirational stuff there that I have been eager to share her story. So she is finally ready to tell everyone all of the successes, all of the fantastic things that she has accomplished while on carnivore. And I hope that her story will be as inspiring to you as it is to me. But without further ado, let's hear from Porsche.
Wow, hi, thank you. That's a nice intro. You really hyped me up there. But I'm really glad to be here. This community has been really great, and I'm excited to share my story.
Awesome. So let's just dive right in and tell me, how did you get started? Why did you decide to go carnivore? Where's the beginning of the story for you?
Well, I actually started my keto journey in 2017, about May. I actually got up to 269 pounds, and I was in a really bad place with my alcohol and the weight, of course, and I decided to do something about it. So I was on YouTube crazy, and I was following like Kayla Keto and Kayla Cupcake and Goody Beats, really upbeat people who were young, who lost a lot of weight in a short amount of time. And I think what really happened was when I was following Butter Bob Briggs. I don't know if you've heard about him. Butter makes your pants fall off, and and Stephanie Keto Person. And I just watched her videos like crazy, binge watched them, and I was like, well, I can do it too. So I kind of started my keto journey then, and I lost about 40 pounds in 2 months. I think 40, but I got down to 225. And so I felt good. I felt really happy about it. But what happened was I kind of just stayed at 225. So the scale would go between 225, and if it got up to 230, I'd quickly, be good with keto again and get myself down to 225. And if you were 269 and you go to 225, you look, don't say you look good, but you look a lot better than you were. So I was like, well, I'm good right here. And I just didn't really push myself any further. And so I was able to kind of stay that weight through all of 2018 and into the beginning of 2019. But during the course of that time, what was happening was because I was alcoholic for 15 years, I was making my keto fit my drinking, if that makes any sense. So I would be like, well, I can have these many glasses of Pinot Grigio because it has enough carbs for me, and I can have these low carb, whatever I was drinking at the time. I would make sure that fit in first, and then I would tailor my food around that. I hate to say that, but that's really what happened because I was so sick, which I'll get into later. But so that's what I did, and I kind of just maintained and stayed afloat at the 225, 230, and doing my keto thing and feeling better than I did, but not really going to the next level, I guess what I should say. And the drinking kind of just got worse in 2019, probably worse than it had ever been in 2019. And so when 2019 was ending, going into 2020, I'd actually gained back 30 of what I lost. So I got to 250. And I didn't really know because I wasn't weighing myself or anything, but as the drinking got worse, I would find I didn't stay as keto as before. I just would eat, less food, and if I did eat something, it would just be like a sandwich or something, to not be hungover the next day or soak up the alcohol kind of eating. So I wasn't really eating anymore. To be honest, I was not eating anymore, even though I was gaining weight. But of course, I know all the calories and sugar and alcohol, obviously, but I wasn't really eating. I was just drinking a lot. So 2020, I got up to back to 250 pounds. Yeah. So Yeah, so I was really disappointed in myself, ashamed of myself, and then my drinking was at a really all-time high. So I really couldn't focus on weight loss at that time. I really needed to focus on quitting the alcohol was more a priority to me than the weight loss at this point. I was very sick. Um, and I think why it was probably hard for me to get some help or address the problem is because people see a person who's kind of holding it together functionally. I mean, I had a really good job. I excelled at my job, took care of my children. I mean, I'm not going to be homeless on the streets and, those things, but it didn't mean I didn't have a problem. And I really did have a problem. And then if I would try to reach out for help, or I would be so embarrassed and ashamed because of my job and my status and this and that. So I kind of just was alone with my problem. But in May, um, I'll just back up for a second. I have a bad anxiety problem. And now knowing alcohol is one of the worst things for people with anxiety, but I used alcohol as my coping for the anxiety. And so what would happen is I would get anxious and I would drink and I wouldn't be anxious anymore, but then the hangovers and all that would make me anxious again. It was just a very bad cycle.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I didn't use any breathing or meditation or medications. Go figure, alcoholic nurse who's anti-medications and the doctors. Because I knew, just from being a nurse for so long, I knew that side. Now you could not get me to the doctor. No way.
Yeah.
So I used alcohol as my anxiety medication. And so I would just get more and more anxious and drink more. And it was just a really, really bad cycle. Panic attacks and things of that nature. And I knew, I knew everything I was supposed to do. If you just stop drinking and go back to keto, you'll be fine. But when you're in it so deep for so long, it's really hard to do it on your own, which I had tried over and over and over again. So even though I'm anti-doctor and anti-healthcare system, being a nurse, I knew physically in my body that I really would need some medical intervention. So what happened was in May of this year, I was with a really bad panic attacks and the palpitations were just extreme, chest pains actually. And I'm a nurse, this is a nurse, but I had this also avoidance of going to the doctor because I don't want to know what it is. And it was really bad. So I actually left work one day and I was like, I'm sick. I need to be off for some time. And the days were coming to where the request off was almost over. So I said, you're going to have to go to the doctor at some point to excuse all these days. I mean, you don't really have a choice. Right. So it took me about 8 days to actually get to the doctor. And when I finally got to the doctors, when I finally told myself, now you have to go, it was because I was sick, vomiting, not feeling good at all, no food at all for days, palpitations, very scary, pains. I mean, I was just so bad. And I was like, my goodness, you're really, really sick person. This is something else. This isn't the drinking. I actually thought maybe I was having a heart attack. I'm going to be honest with you. So I called the Kaiser first. And the nurse, when I told her all the symptoms, she actually scared me a little bit. That said, I need to go as soon as possible to the doctor. And I said, what do you think? I'm having a heart attack or this and that? And she just said, well, when you're an alcoholic and you drink alcohol in large quantities on a daily basis, it damages every organ in your body. So we don't know what the damage is, but I think it would be safe if you went to the urgent care. So once you said it like that, I listened. I went to the urgent care. And I just knew they were going to admit me or something like that. And so I went, and I actually had to drink alcohol to get there, I'm going to be honest, because there was no way I could even make it. So I went, and I remember they did my EKG, and it was sinus tach, which just means I have a fast heartbeat. And I was like, what? That's it? And the nurse was like, well,
yeah.
Yeah. I was like, sinus tach? Wow, that's great. And she was like, well, we do need to get your blood work and be seen by the doctor. And I was like, okay. And when I went in, my blood pressure was like 175 over 110. I mean, my heart was beating 125 beats per minute. I don't know. A lot of that probably was anxiety too. I mean, I was very anxious to be there, of course. So I got my blood work and I know with Kaiser, you have an app, so you can kind of see lab results coming in before the doctor talks to you. And so I was like, okay, my glucose is good, my CBC is good. Where's the other tests? I was like, the troponin. Oh my goodness, and it said that some tests will not come on the app because they have to be reviewed by a medical professional. And the troponin is that cardiac enzyme that will let you know if you've had a heart attack. So
Okay, that's brand new information for me. Thank you.
yeah, so they'll do like 3 troponins. It's called serial troponin, and they'll run 3 of them sometimes, depending on the result of the first one in an ER. And if I don't know the number by heart, but whatever the number would be would let the doctor know that, okay, there's been some heart damage, there's been a heart attack here, and they would go from there. So I went back from the lab to the area. I waited for the doctor, and he came in, and he was just like, okay, so this is normal, blah, 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 the troponin is normal. And I remember I touched him. I said, it is! And I was like, oh my God, I was so happy. He was like, don't touch me, COVID. Yes. And I remember the tears coming from my eyes, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm so, because he's a health professional like me, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just can't believe I'm not having a heart attack. I just thought I was going to die. And he looked at me and he said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. With just COVID, we're not supposed to touch the patients, or something that he said. And he apologized. Right. And he said, well, just going over everything, your EKG, your labs, I can say right now you're not having a heart attack. What the problem is that you need to stop drinking. You need to go through detox. This is an ER. Because I was like, well, can you do my cholesterol while you're here, my liver enzymes and this and that? And he's like, I'm just here to make sure you don't have anything acutely going on. I'm not your primary physician, but I would strongly advise you to call the detox, center or whatever it's called, and go from there. And I was like, okay. So I drove home and I sat in the driveway. I didn't go in. I was like, there's nothing wrong with me. I mean, there was something wrong with me, but nothing acutely wrong. And I thought, man, Porsche, this is bad. This means you really have to stop drinking. That's the problem.
And so wait, when was this?
This was May of this year.
So wow, first of all, that must have been scary in and of itself to go to the emergency room at the height of, all of the terror. Like, that alone is like, hey, if I can't, if I have something going on that's driving me to the hospital at this time, like, it's got to stop. Wow.
Yeah, because I'm really, like I said, anti-doctor. I mean, I would have to be doubled over and dying to go to the hospital. I'm just not that kind of person. And then plus... So
you must have really been in bad shape.
Yes.
Or felt like you were in bad shape.
I felt like I was really in bad shape. And, I never was so I called the line, and I really thought in the back of my head, I had a very negative thinking. Worst case scenario thinking has always been my problem. That's why I say a lot of my success is mindset change, because I've always been worst case scenario, negative Porsche, just not a positive person, but in here where it counts for myself, just very negative. And I said, well, it's going to be inpatient rehab. I'm not going to be able to afford it. It's going to be this astronomical copay. So I might as well just drink. But I called, and the nurse asked you every question under the sun. It's embarrassing. They really want to know. And I sat there in the driveway and I told myself, well, why lie now? I mean, you've gone through, to be honest and see what they have to say. So I was very honest about the amount, the quantities, the frequency, my symptoms. And she told me, okay, I'm going to connect you with the doctor because of COVID through Zoom in about an hour. He's going to call you. Will you be available? And I said, yes. And it was a young doctor, nicest doctor, and he made me actually feel like it was not the biggest deal, like, because he's dealt with this before, and what I was experiencing was very common, and that I didn't need to be afraid. And he gave me my options. And the first option was to do a inpatient detox at home. And I was just like, how can I do this at home? How can I detox alone at home? Impossible.
Were there other adults in the house, or is it just you that's
just me and my 16-year-old and my 14-year-old? My 20-year-old is in the military, so it's just the 3 of us, and then working. And I'm just like, how am I going to do this? And he explained to me that 90% of his patients did successful detox at home, and it's very safe and it's very affordable. And he thinks I'd be a really good candidate for it. And if I wanted to, I could start today. And I was like, today? He was like, yes. And so for those who don't know, basically in-home detox is you're on Ativan pretty much every hour until the stretch of time is longer between the doses until you don't need it anymore.
What's Ativan?
Ativan is a benzo. It's an anti-anxiety, but it's used for also alcohol withdrawal. And so I'm thinking, so I'm just going to take an Ativan every hour, every time I feel like I need to drink, I'm just going to take an Ativan. Like, that's it. And pretty much that's what he said. And I went to Kaiser and got the prescription. And so I had my last drink that day about 7 p.m. I know I still drank with all of that. Can you believe it? I'm just being, but, and then I took my Ativan, my first one, like at 8. And so what it does is, I'm not a pharmacist, but pretty much a basic understanding, just being a nurse. It doesn't let you feel all the effects of not having another drink. You know, you've been drinking, and then you don't. It's almost like medication. You get really sick and you need another drink just to have basic functions, I guess. You just feel like you have to have another drink. So the Ativan kind of takes all that away. It doesn't make you feel drunk or intoxicated, but you don't feel any kind of withdrawals or anything like that. So I did it, and I just couldn't believe, like, okay, and I took one at 9, and then I, went to sleep, and then the next morning, and I was like, wow, I can do this, and the nurses were checking in with me, and by day 4, I'm like, okay, the Ativan's getting kind of low. I'm really afraid now. What am I going to do? And he explained to me that you can't be on Ativan long term. It's very dangerous. It's just to help you kind of get through the hump, and after 5 days, it's kind of that's it. And so they put you on another medication. It's called Neurontin, which has a lot of uses, seizures, neuropathies, whatever, but it has an unlabeled use for withdrawal effects. And he told me he can keep me on that while I do the rehab. So I know that was a long, drawn-out story, but that's just to tell you how I got to where I am. So that was about a good week or two of the detox, going to the inpatient rehab over the camera about 3 hours a day. I committed myself to do that. I was on disability from work. And
so the 3 hours a day was like therapy? I mean, you talked with a counselor or doctor?
It was group therapy. It was like maybe 10 of us, and we would share our stories, and we had homework, and we did all kind of exercises. And I would say that some of it was really helpful in the sense that I knew how important it was. I knew there was other people struggling like me. I got up with a purpose. I wasn't stressed with work and my commute, and I just was able to focus on myself. So if it meant doing class, whether I agree with it or not, I was going to do it. And I was taking the medication, and I was doing that. Now, from May 28th to June 16th, I was fasting a lot because I said my body just probably needs a fast, all this alcohol, I'm detoxing, and I probably could benefit from some fasting because I fasted before. And then when I would eat, it would be something ketogenic. I didn't have much of an appetite yet. I think I was just healing and just getting over the detox, so I didn't eat a whole lot. But then June 16th came, and I was like, you know what? Why don't
that was my birthday.
Oh, really? That's great. Yeah. Happy belated.
Thanks.
So it was June 16th. I remember because I wrote it down. It was June 16th. And I did carnivore for 2 weeks, March of 2018, after seeing Joe Rogan and Sean Baker and Jordan Peterson and Michaela Peterson's story. And I did it for 2 weeks. And I remember because I was working next to the Stater Brothers, and they had a big old sale on ribeyes, and I must have bought 25 ribeyes. And I did carnivore for 2 weeks, and I felt amazing. And I noticed that I drank significantly less during that period. And I actually reached out to Sean Baker, and he responded. And I was like, wow, he's like a celebrity. He responded to me. And he told me the more I do carnivore, I would find my cravings for alcohol to be less and less. And so I was like, this is great. And so the other thing I noticed was that I was at work on the computer, but I didn't put my glasses on. I didn't even notice.
Wow.
I didn't put my glasses on to pass the medications and all that stuff that I do on the computer, the nurse's notes and all that. And I could see the computer very well. and I didn't register until like the next day, the next day, the next day. I'm like, you know what? You haven't used your glasses on the computer. Like, that's crazy. And so I lost like 10 pounds, and I was drinking a lot less, and I didn't use my glasses, and I was sleeping good. It was all the great things. And, you know, it was, like I said, mindset, I guess, that I wasn't ready to change because I started drinking the same and I didn't keep it up. So I remembered that in June that, you know, you did carnivore once before and how good you felt. And I guess I lost 10 pounds by not drinking and detox. And I'm like, when you wanted to keep it going, why don't you just go back to carnivore? And so that's kind of what I did. That's how kind of when I found you in June, I looked up Black people who are carnivore and success stories and transformations. And I was already, by June 16th, I was feeling like 75% better. Like, wow, Porsche, you were really sick. You know, I was sleeping. I was not so anxious. I wasn't hungover every day. I mean, I felt 75% better just from taking the alcohol out.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So then I was like, why don't you just do it? Just do it. And that's kind of how I started to get on the carnivore train, I would say, was that day I decided to not do keto and do carnivore.
So that was June 16th?
That was on June 16th.
It was a great day.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was 241 on June 16th, and I don't remember my measurements, but I took all my measurements and I took a picture, and that's really the day that I started.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, that's such an amazing story, and I'm so impressed at, how you really have dealt with the alcohol. So, can you give us a little bit more backstory? I mean, I think there's probably a lot of people who, certainly people do ask me about alcohol and carnivore. So, can we get a little bit more sort of backstory? Like, how long had you been drinking? Had you tried quitting before? Had you, tried 12-step programs? This time, did you do that? Or, once you stopped the Ativan, did you just kind of run with it? Like, how did that go?
Sure. So yeah, I've been alcoholic for 15 years, and I had tried to start and stop. One thing about alcohol, it's progressive, like any disease. So the amount I drank 15 years ago, of course, is very different than what I drank last year. And you have good days and you have bad days, and you have times where you drink more and you drink less. I tried AA in 2017 of November, and I actually went 13 days. And it's not to knock AA. It's been good for a lot of people. Maybe it was the group that I went to, but I just felt I don't belong here. I mean, these people are homeless. These people are drug addicts. They're like on the street. They've lost their job. Like, I'm not going to do that. I just drink too much. Like, no, this is not for me. And I did not feel comfortable at all. And I went to the meetings, and I just felt like there's a bunch of us around telling our story over and over, and it's sad, but it just wasn't doing it for me. And I started drinking again. I did it 13 days. I went 13 days, and I was keto, actually. And I found, which is really interesting, that after the 13 days, I was really having a hard time with withdrawal because I did it cold turkey, no medical intervention at that time. But I really wanted a lot of sweets. And I didn't, I remembered the connection. And I'm not a sweet tooth person. The weight gain I had was mostly alcohol and then just more savory foods. Like I'd eat a taco or something, or chips and dip. I wasn't like, let's go get the candy bars. That's not really been me. But I wanted candy all the time, actually chocolate a lot. And I was like, this is really strange. I'm always wanting chocolate, but I know it was just because, so much sugar from the alcohol. So this time around, when I did the classes, they did have a lot of AA components in the class, I guess. The teacher himself was an addict and recovered 20 years. And so he was a big proponent of AA. And what I did do was try Women of Sobriety. I Googled them and I got their books. I got their books and I read it, and it still wasn't for me. I think maybe with me, it was just my mindset and some of the things I was going through personally that would make me turn to alcohol really needed to be fixed. And so I think, and I have 3, sons that I wanted to be around for. And I just said, at the rate I'm going, And like my sister would tell me, you're going to die. At the rate I was going, I didn't think I would be around much longer. And I felt like I wouldn't be around much longer. And so I think that was more the motivation, was just, I don't want to feel sick like this anymore. And I don't want the shame of, different things that I went through as a result anymore. I just want it to be somebody different. And so I think that's pretty much what helps me stay off of it. Like, I don't go to AA, I don't go to meetings, but my mindset is very different. I just feel like I just don't need it anymore. It's really the best way I can explain it. And I think with carnivore, or like when I was keto too, the absence of the carbohydrates has really helped my anxiety so much. So because I drank a lot because of anxiety, this way of eating has relieved my anxiety so much that I didn't really want to turn to alcohol anyway, because that was really the biggest reason why I would, because I was such an anxious person. And so I think that's probably why I've been able to still stay sober. Today's 201 days. Thank you.
Fantastic. Brava. I'm really impressed with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, I understand what you're saying about the alcohol and keto. And when I was losing, before I went carnivore, I was, I guess I started out like, being whatever I thought a healthy keto person was, but it sort of morphed into and if it fits your macros. So I thought of myself kind of like a chocolate and wine carnivore. I was eating meat and chocolate and wine, and that was how I got my carbs in. So removing the alcohol and the chocolate made a huge difference for me.
Yeah. And then I got to the point where it was like, okay, vodka and club soda has 0 carbs, so let's go all in. I mean, we don't need wine. This is 0, and then that was really got the worst.
Did you find a difference? Like, did you rely mostly on wine? Did you kind of try to go to wine where you were trying to drink lighter, or did you have more of trouble with a hard alcohol? Because you kind of hear that sometimes.
Towards the end, this last year, it was more hard alcohol. Yeah, I didn't do wine or beer or anything anymore. It's just like, that's a waste of time. So, yeah, it was more liquor this last time around.
Yeah, I found that liquor was definitely more, it's harder on the system.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and then tolerance, your tolerance changes, so you need more of the substance for the same effects. And then it's liquor, so it's just really all bad. All bad. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So after you did the inpatient at-home treatment, did you continue therapy? Like, what did you do between, June and now to, stay alcohol-free?
Well, I stayed off of work for about a month. I think that was the biggest thing. I've been, a nurse since I was 19, and I've been at the administrative side of nursing for the last maybe 12 years. And that's not being on the floor, that's not being with patients. I was, the exact title is Director of Staff Development, but it has a large HR component to the job. So you're, the onboarding process, hiring, firing, evaluating people's performance, all the education. And then in addition to that, I was on call 24/7. So if anybody called out sick, it doesn't matter where I was, weekend, night, middle of the night, I was responsible for replacing the call-offs. And I think with someone who was, with the alcohol and trying to heal and all that, there was a lot of stress. So I think just being off of work for that week really helped me focus on myself, my children, things that were important. And the rehab was actually 3 weeks long. So I was only off of work for a month. So for 3 weeks, I was on the phone 3 hours doing the rehab. So I really did spend a lot of time with that. And then my other free time, I would walk and I would watch YouTube and focus on my carnivore. And the interesting thing was, because my alcoholism had got pretty bad, I really wasn't eating, or if I did eat, it was garbage. So I think my body was just absorbing up all the nutrients, and it was weird because I was actually eating food, like meals, and I would go to the grocery store and wow, and I was spending money because I was eating again. And I hadn't been doing that before. So I just kind of put all my energy into the class and into learning as much as I could about carnivore and just spending time with my family. And because I commuted, I would be gone. I know I would leave an hour and a half to get to work, and then sometimes it'd take me 2 hours to get home. So I would just be exhausted and go to bed. But I actually felt like I had a life. Right. I actually felt like I had a life. Yeah. And so even though it was a month of a lot of healing and a lot that I had to do, it was actually a good break, just to be off of work because, it was a lot. And so I had 1 week after the rehab was over to just mentally prepare to go back to work. So that's really what I did. Read books, just relaxed, got my sleeping back together, um, cooking, spending time with my sons, things like that. I was just like a normal person who didn't have a job. And it was the first time I had been off in a very, very significant amount of time.
So wait, you had a 3 to 4 hour commute daily?
I know. I got this job, this offer I really couldn't refuse, and the plan was to relocate. And then we just didn't, and it wasn't successful trying to find a place. And then my children wanted to finish the school year. So you know how it is. You work a little bit longer and a little bit longer, and then before I know it, I mean, that's your
It's
job.
12 years?
No, it was only a year at this place, but
Oh,
still,
okay.
yeah, that commute was really very stressful and being on call like that. So that month off was actually really a nice break, even though I was healing from being sick.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I can see with that kind of commute and that kind of stress and, of course. And then if somebody calls out sick and you've got to cover it, that's, at any time of day or night, you might have to drive an hour and a half or 2 hours. That sucks.
I should say not cover it. I don't mean that I physically myself had to cover the shift. I would have to find people to do it.
Oh, I see.
Which sometimes could be good, and then sometimes it could be really bad. I mean, you can't force people to work, and people don't want to. And COVID was really, people were scared and they didn't want to really work too, so that was frustrating. You can't float people in a non-COVID unit to a COVID unit, so then you had less staff to work with. There was just a lot of other dynamics that made being on call a lot more challenging than before. And people were calling out a lot more often, and I was waking up during the night a lot more. So that made it much more of a challenge.
Wow. So you went back to work, but you were not drinking. So how did you sort of manage the anxiety then?
That was difficult. Commuting and trying to use other tactics to help me. I did a lot of deep breathing, just imagining my safe space. If I would get anxious, driving would make me anxious. I would have to pull over sometime. I just found that I would just have to use other things. But I also found that by eating this way, my anxiety was very, very minimal. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I mean, I would be surprised. I would go days and days and I didn't have any anxiety at all. And if I did have some anxiety, I was more able to recognize it for what it was instead of just panicking and thinking death or whatever would go through my mind and rush for alcohol. I was able to realize this is anxiety, this is what's going on. Or I would call someone and I would just try to calm myself down the best I could. But being sober was just so important to me that I just wouldn't do that. I don't care how anxious I got. I just wasn't worth it. So, yeah.
Wow. So tell us more about going carnivore. So you started June 16th, you said. How did you eat in the beginning? What were the first changes you noticed? And how did things change as you went along?
So in the beginning, I was very focused on the scale. Extremely, because I was 241, and getting down was very, very important to me as fast as possible. And I was on Reddit and I read this article about this guy who was on 500 calories a day, very low carb, but he's like, well, if you're only eating 500 calories, it's inevitable, you have to lose weight. And I was just like, wow, 500 calories, that's tough. And I was thinking what I could do, like 2 eggs or tuna salad in the can. I mean, I was, but then I said, okay, let's do 750 calories. So I think for like the first 2 weeks of carnivore, I was like, I bought a scale. I never had a weighing scale. I bought a scale and I was like tracking everything in my Lose It app, and I was 750 calories for like 2 weeks, and I walked for 45 minutes a day. And it's interesting because in those 2 weeks, I didn't really lose. I mean, I felt smaller, like inches wise, but I was like, it took me such a long time to get out of the 240s and then into the 230s. And I was just like, man, like I'm eating 750 calories, my goodness. And I would say in the beginning, I had a lot more variety, even though it was low calorie, like shrimp with butter. I mean, shrimp's delicious, but it has a lot less calories than steak or something, and more eggs. Or I made chaffles. And I also would try to eat maybe one meal a day. I did a lot of fasting. So that's what I did mostly in the beginning. When I went back to work, I would say tracking like that was kind of unrealistic. Being busy after being a month off. I mean, it was right in the midst of COVID. My job was very busy, and it's like, oh, Porsche's back. So I mean, I had a lot to jump in head first, and tracking wasn't really going to work. So I tried to just eat once or twice a day. And so I'd say by July and August, I would eat more burger patties, or because at work it was just easier, or pork chops. I wouldn't say till like maybe August or maybe the end of July, I started to watch more videos, be on Instagram more YouTube, that I was thinking that this whole restricting of the calories is probably not the best thing. And see, when you've been an alcoholic as long as I have, so I've cut that out, and then here I am on this very, very restricted diet, and I was just like, you're gonna go crazy. You're not drinking anymore, and now you're like 750 calories, and only it's just a lot of restrictions at one time, and I didn't want to fail. So I'm like, maybe I need to relax a little bit with the carnivore, because I don't want to be so extreme, if that makes any sense. I just felt like I was acting a little too extreme, and I was like, maybe I need to relax a little bit. So I would say by August, I was a lot more relaxed. In July, I had got a grill, and that was really a big change, I think, in my diet, because I started making all my food outside. And so when that happened, I ate a lot more beef, I noticed. And I would feel the difference as far as a lot more energy, and sleeping better. Sleeping when especially if you've been drinking as many years, your sleep is not really good sleep. It's maybe you passed out kind of sleep, or you wake up in the middle of your sleep because of symptoms or whatever. So actually sleeping well was one of the biggest changes I noticed. The decrease in anxiety I noticed, a lot of more energy, and I didn't have any more palpitations or any kind of pains anywhere in my body, which was really great. And I noticed that my clothes were getting looser and looser. And so I'd say by August, I think it was August, I feel like the weight, a big chunk kind of fell off, and then it just started being a lot faster from there. And I was eating more, which was ironic, because I was like, I have to eat less than 1,000 calories, and I wasn't really losing when I was doing that. But when I kind of relaxed, I found that the weight was coming off a lot faster.
Wow, that's a word to the wise, that eating more can help you to lose more weight. Really overly restricting is not, it's actually just counterintuitive, but it's not particularly effective.
Yeah, and I didn't have as much variety anymore. I don't have as much variety as I did before. And like I said, I think I'm usually one meal a day, maybe two. But the calories in the meal were much more than in the beginning, and I didn't stress about it as much. I did take my measurements maybe every 2 weeks, so I could really see the difference in the beginning more with measurements than the pounds on the scale, and that's kind of what helped me to relax a little bit about the scale and not be so stressed about it, because the inches were really incredible. I think total it's been like 40 inches all over.
Wow.
Yes, so the inches would have made the difference more to me. I mean, at 55 pounds is significant, of course, but it just seems like a lot of inches that I noticed more so than the scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how much do you eat now?
So now I'm usually once or twice a day. I find that I don't really want to eat before 2:00. I started coffee. Well, it's decaf coffee because I can't handle caffeine. But I think because of my coworkers or when we were at work, everybody had coffee, so it was just nice, and it was so cold, so I enjoyed a hot beverage. So I do have coffee with heavy whipping cream, and I have like 2 Splendas in it, and I allow myself that because I was like, to me, I don't want to be like depriving myself of everything from where I've come from with the alcohol and everything, and so I allow myself a nice coffee, a sweet coffee. So I do allow myself that, and I don't feel bad about it anymore. I used to feel really bad, like this is not carnivore, and you have a Splenda, and I don't want to have that mindset. I just want to have more balance in my life, so I allow myself to have that. And then I usually don't want to eat till about 2 or 3. Actually, like even when I was working at my old job, I mean, I have since relocated. I'd usually be the last one eating lunch, or they're all eating that, or I'm fasting today. And they got used to it really quickly, but I would just, yeah. So I would probably eat 2 or 3 and then go home and eat again sometimes. Sometimes it would be so late, the drive, I wouldn't want to. But sometimes I would get home and eat again, especially before daylight savings time, because I could still go outside on the grill. So I get home at 7, it's still light outside, and I'll grill some meat. But right now I've been once a day mostly.
And how much, like, would you say, is it a pound of meat, 2 pounds? None,
So I don't weigh it, but like if it's a steak, I'll have 1 steak, a ribeye or a New York strip. Or if it's pork chops, I'll probably have 2 or 3 pork chops. If I'm eating burger patties, it's probably, depending where you go, it could be 3 or 4 burger patties. Or if they're homemade ones, it's a little bit bigger. And I really like ground beef in a bowl. I don't know how many pounds it is, but it's like 1 little package. I could probably eat the most of it. If that's my only meal with some cheese in it. So I don't know pound wise what that would equate to. I guess it depends how big the ribeye is or whatever, but that's usually what it is. If I do 2 meals, it's usually that I had hamburger patties or something lighter for lunch if I'm working, and then I have a piece of meat for dinner with my sons, like steak or pork chops or something like that, chuck steak or ribeye. I can't really afford ribeye all the time, but and ground beef, of course.
Yeah. So what do your sons think about all of this? Like, your transformation is tremendous. So what do they think?
Well, they're my biggest cheerleaders, and then my sister, of course. They're really happy for Mom. They're really proud of me, and especially with the sobriety. They're very happy that I am very proud of me, and that makes me feel good. They're so proud of me, and so is my sister. She is so proud of me. She tells me I'm an inspiration, and then me, I think I'm not an inspiration to anybody. And then she's always telling me how proud she is of me and cheers me on all the time. As far as the diet goes,
ditto.
Thank you. As far as the diet goes, my sister has had a big success 20 years ago of weight loss, and she's always, she won't touch bread. That's her thing, right? Because it makes you ugly. So she's been like that for the last 17 years, and so I know, and she knows about keto. She's in ketosis pretty much. The only thing that she would say is it wouldn't hurt you to have a little vegetable or some avocado portion. My goodness. You don't have to, if you can have a green smoothie, it's going to be okay. You can have some nuts. Like, you don't have to be so extreme. So she is very supportive of a meat-based diet. I would say her diet is mostly meat-based, but she does have some vegetables. And I think once or twice I had a palpitation here or there, and I'm like, well, your body's telling you to have avocado, and I did not feel bad about it, and I had it, and I felt much better. So sometimes I do have avocados. As far as my children, my youngest, he's a vegetarian, so that's been a struggle. I just try to talk to him about what I've learned and what I believe, and I won't bring soy in the house, so he knows about that. I guess I've scared him enough about soy, so he won't. He doesn't do soy.
How did he get to be a vegetarian, or where did that come from?
I don't know, really. I really don't. But he hasn't had meat since last March. But he still will eat like cheese or sour cream or something. He just doesn't eat the meat.
Right.
Yeah. So my 16-year-old, tall, 6 foot, he's a little bit has some weight that he wants to lose. So I encourage him to eat more like I do. And if I cook it and if I make it, and he eats mostly like I do, and he loves meat, so it's win-win. So I would say if I'm eating it, he's going to eat the same as I am. So.
Excellent.
Yeah. And my oldest is in the military, so it's kind of like whatever they serve you, you know.
Yeah.
Can't be that picky when you're, in service, I guess. But he lifts weights and everything, so it's a little bit different situation.
Yeah. So, now your life has sort of changed a lot. You're crossing the country, and did you drive, or how did you?
Actually, yes. So,
I love going on road trips, and it has always been a dream of mine to go all the way from New York to California. So I'm quite jealous that you had an opportunity to do that.
I did it before, actually. Long story, but we actually relocated before in Georgia, like 15 years ago or something. But anyway, continuing in that job and commuting and not seeing the kids as much, and now I'm 55 pounds down and I'm sober and I feel good. It just wasn't really matching anymore. And being away from my older son, even though the people are in the military, they still need their family, and we still miss them, and he still misses us, and no support on this side of the country, and everything was just kind of pulling into that direction. And so I transferred my nursing license over, and I was surprised just how fast I got it, especially with COVID, that I was able to transfer it so quickly. Mm-hmm. And so when I got it, I was just like, oh man, well, try to find a place, just see what happens. And I found a place too fast. I was almost thinking it was a scam. And then I had this really great interview on Zoom for a job. And I'm like, okay, everything's happening too fast. Shoot, now I have to resign. So
hey, I guess this was a sign. The universe was like, yeah, that was a really bad job and a bad situation. I don't know why you stayed so long. I sent you all of these signs, but now that you're awake, let me hurry up and get everything lined up because you got to get out of there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't say it was a bad job. I mean, I like the people I work with; those are good, but it wasn't
just
good.
Bad
for
situation.
Me. Yeah, and that wasn't good for me anymore. But it was a nice place to work, and I worked with a great group of people. But that commute and being on call and everything that I'm trying to do now, it just wasn't gonna work anymore. So I was like, man, I have to resign. So yeah, 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks, and I told my boss and everything. And she was very, very happy for me and supportive. And so it was like, okay, we have 3 weeks to move across the country. So I follow the paleo pharmacist. I don't know if you're familiar with her. Mm-hmm. She's very minimalistic, which I've been trying to do. And I think carnivore has helped me a lot with that. I mean, I don't need as many kitchen utensils or spices, and a lot of things is in perspective of what we really need and don't. And so I was already getting rid of a lot of things anyway. Like the pantry was getting smaller, and the utensils and the gadgets. And so when I said, oh, we're moving across the country, it wasn't as hard as I thought to get rid of things. I mean, I found that a lot of the things I had or that we had were just junk or things that can easily be replaced. And what's really important is that we're leaving. So I got rid of a lot of things. I had a hauler come like maybe 2 or 3 times, and I gave some things away to my sister, but for the most part, everything went in the trash. And I said, well, whatever can fit in the car. And so what could fit in the car ended up being our memories and our clothes and each other. And we drove across the country. And because of COVID, I mean, I guess we couldn't stop and see and go all the places we wanted to. And then, I didn't want to be on the road forever either because, money-wise, and we just wanted to get to the place and get the keys and all that. But I allowed myself, I did over 4 days because I was the only driver, and I know driving and nighttime driving can be an anxiety trigger for me. And so I would do all my bulk of driving like 7 in the morning, and then by 6 or 7, I'd be like, okay, I've driven enough for the day. It's time to get a hotel and us eat, and we'll pick it up again in the morning. And so that's what I did.
God, 12 hours of driving.
Maybe 10. I don't know
so
exactly.
Much.
I don't know if it was exactly 12, but you get what I'm saying. Once the darkness came.
Yeah, I did like 7 until 4. And then it was like, okay, where are we landing for the afternoon?
I know. But I would try to push it to like 6:30 at least. But, in other states, the darkness.
You're type A.
The darkness is different in other states,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
California, and I'd be like, I cannot see, and I don't
Yeah.
know where we are, and it's time to pull over. And my
Yeah.
sister was like the travel agent from California,
Yeah.
booking our hotels, and by nighttime I was done, and it'd be 6:30, and they were tired too, and our one meal would be at a restaurant or something in a hotel, and yeah, and it took me 4 days doing it that way, but I think that was the best way and the safest way. Well, we got
Yeah.
to our home Tuesday at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 5. Yeah. Yeah. It was
Wow. So
beautiful.
everything is different. So it's like really a fresh start. So you can be any person, anyone. So how has carnivore changed you? I mean, how are you going to be different than the person before who struggled so much?
Well, I think for one, I've put so much emphasis on weight and happiness and just everything. I put so much on it, and it is really important to me. I mean, I still feel like I have 30 pounds to go, or maybe 40. I don't know whatever my body says, but I think 30 in my mind, and so it's changed me in the sense that my mindset has changed. Like, I can actually do this. I can actually stick to it. I've done the hardest thing in my life, which was be sober. So to me, carnivore is like, come on, eat steak. Like, I stopped drinking after 15 years. Like, this is the easiest. This is too easy. So if I feel like if I can stop drinking, I can do anything. I can be carnivore. I can change my way of thinking. I can be, more mindful. And I just feel like I just focus more on what I want and manifest it, and everything happens. Like, this year you said you were going to get sober, you got sober. You said you're going to get out of the 200s, you got out of the 200s. You said you're going to live in Raleigh, and you're going to do it, and I did it. So I kind of feel like everything I'm saying is really happening, and I'm just gonna keep with that. And I just think 2020, the next 6 months of carnivore, just have to go up. All I can do is go up from here. Is
Yeah.
really how I feel. I landed the job. I start tomorrow.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. And then I told myself, following you, I said I will interview with her on my 6-month carnivore anniversary. And I remember that was a goal I had for myself. Like, I want to be one of those transformation stories. And today is my 6-month anniversary, and here we are. So
Oh my God.
yeah,
Yeah.
today is December 16th, right? So I just feel like I'm just going to keep manifesting the good things and just keep going. Because I just feel like I have
So
nowhere
what's
to
on the
go.
horizon? What's your next goal? What's the next thing you want to conquer? What's your Mount Everest?
Well, stay sober, of course, stay carnivore. But I started an Instagram, I don't know, page or whatever you call it. I really didn't think. I just did it for myself, to be honest.
Right.
Like, maybe so I can have a journal or something to show what I've done. And I don't know. I've actually inspired a few people, which is crazy. So, I was just
You're
thinking.
going to inspire a lot of people.
Yeah, thank you. I was just thinking something with that. I don't know specifically. I mean, I don't know if it's a YouTube channel. I don't know if just keep the page going. I don't know, but something with that, because I just feel so passionate about it, especially in the setting that I work, and the people that are around me. Sometimes it's so sad that I'm like, man, your whole life could change if you just didn't eat those potatoes. Like, you just don't even know, And I just,
Yeah.
I want to help people. And then, I have a special place in my heart for mental health and for anxiety sufferers and alcoholics, because that's me. And my last job, our facility was all mental health. And I would just look at some of the residents and I'm like, my God, they've gained so much weight in this few months of time. And they're talking to themselves and their anxiety is off the chain. And if they would look what they feed them, and if they could just eat like this, So I really have a place in my heart for something like that. So I don't know. I thought maybe of getting my drug and alcohol counselor certification. Maybe I think that I would be able to help someone. So I thought of that, and
God, you should do coaching. I mean, Yeah, no, I mean, but there's definitely, I know this, that I used to, go on, there's a subreddit, Stop Drinking on Reddit.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and periodically I would see people mention using a carnivore diet to stop drinking. And, so it's a secret, but there are people out there that are hearing about it and looking for alternative ways to quit drinking. And so for you to be able to put a package together like that where you can talk people through it and explain how to do it, I think that would be incredible.
Yeah, you never know, because I don't have urges to drink. And before, with other diets or keto, I always would go back to drinking, and I don't feel that anymore. I think a lot of it is my mindset too, but I think the way of eating it really has a lot to do with it, because I don't have any anxiety, and I just feel so good. So I write a lot, so I was thinking of writing a memoir.
Oh my God, you must write a memoir. Are you kidding? You must write a memoir.
Well, I've started dibbling and dabbling, and I just...
don't dibble and dabble. Do it.
Some of those stories, I don't know if I'm ready to put them out there, but I've written a lot of it.
Put down. Wow, you've written a lot of it already. So, I'm so excited. I can't wait to see this book.
No, not written a lot of book already. Written a lot of notes and ideas of different memories or different stories. Being an alcoholic is not pretty, right? So, I've thought about doing that. But one thing I'd like to do for 2021 is just start the fitness part, I guess. Like I said, I still have some weight to lose. I'm 194, but from 250, and my highest, like I told you, 2017 was 269. So I'm 194, and I'd like to be in the 170s, 160s. But I'd like to start a fitness component with it. I've been in the gym before. I know what it's like. I enjoy it, and I would like to, lift weights and maybe challenge myself fitness-wise. So now that I've come to the eating part, so that's kind of what I'm looking forward to doing, and just living my life in North Carolina, enjoying it. It's beautiful here.
How long is your commute now?
So the new job is 8 miles away.
Oh, thank God! Thank God.
Yes, it's 8 miles away.
You've got an extra 4 hours a day that you're not commuting. So there's plenty of time to write a book and work out.
Right. And there's so much nature here. I love nature. Even when I was drinking, I love being at the lake, the creek, nature walk, stargazing. All of that.
Did you catch the meteor shower last week?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. I know. I wish I could have, but I didn't. But there's a lot of opportunities to be outside here. North Carolina is so beautiful, and I've already have some suggestions to me in parks that are nearby and trails, and I want to do that too. It's just, I get so cold. I get a lot colder now than I used to before. But but yeah, so I would like to start doing some fitness stuff, whatever that entails. I just would like to incorporate that, build some muscle.
Nice.
Yeah. That's my plan.
Well, there's plenty of people in the group who do all kinds of workouts who can have plenty of advice and support for you. So I'm really excited to see. I'm excited to see what the next 6 months brings.
Yeah, and I would like to do a meetup. I try to reach out to some of the North Carolina sisters in the group, and I know they're pretty concerned because of COVID. I'm not so concerned, but I have my own reasons for that, and I don't want to jump on that tangent. But for those who don't mind and wear their mask, and I would love to meet up with some Black carnivores. I think it's wonderful. So many Black people, just like when you talk to them, like some of the things they say, my God, they're really lost. They really don't know. They really don't have the education. They really think that eating steaks and red meat and pork is the worst thing for you. And then eating bacon, they look at their eyes so big when you have some bacon, and they think they're doing the right thing by eating their oatmeal and macaroni
and their
cheese.
Sweet tea.
And their sweet tea, and look at you like you're crazy because you're eating a bowl of ground beef for lunch. And it's just, we need so much help. And I think I was reading somewhere that there's more African Americans diabetics with amputations than other races. Yep. And I certainly see that a lot where I was working, so it's just really sad. And I just want to help. I would like to help people, inspire people. I don't know what angle yet, but it is something I would like to do.
Well, get that book written. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, well, I've been saying it for a long time, but maybe I should just actually get to it and start doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I wonder, well, one of the things I was wondering was when you went carnivore, were you already over sort of your cravings for alcohol, or do you feel like that improved the process of quitting?
I think the cravings physically were gone because of detox. But
Hmm.
you still have the mental part that's really hard because especially when you've been drinking for so long, you associate alcohol with a lot of things. Like if you go to the beach, you have a drink. If you barbecue, you have a drink, You
Yeah.
associate it with a lot. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's like
Every
everything is
single thing.
yeah, I can't go to the lake. I can't play dominoes. I can't listen to music even. I mean, it's so the physical cravings, I think the detox helped with that. But the mental is really the hardest part. And so I think carnivore helped with that because I think it healed some of my brain. Like I talk about some of the physical things, like not having any more palpitations. My gums didn't bleed when I brushed my teeth anymore. My skin looks better. Weight loss, of course, less anxiety. But I think something happens in the brain too, because I just felt, I don't know, like cleaner, healthier. Like I just felt better. I mean, and so I think when you feel so good in your body, because I mean, I was feeling really terrible. I mean, this last ending, I mean, I was like, my goodness, I didn't realize how bad I had gotten. And alcohol does that to you. It destroys, like the nurse said, it really does destroy all the organs in your body. And it's just not good at all. And you just really start to feel so bad. And so I think with carnivore, most alcoholics are very malnourished. I remember even the doctor said I need to take a vitamin B1 every day while I was doing the detox because of, he said for my brain, there's actually a syndrome. I forgot how to pronounce it. It starts with a W. That is alcoholics get, and it's not really good. So we're very malnourished. And I think with doing the carnivore, I was actually getting a lot more nourishment than I had ever had probably for years because I just wasn't really eating like that. And, you get a lot of vitamins with the beef and the different meats. So, I think that really helped too. I just felt too good. And then the thought of a hangover when you're feeling that good is just like, no way. Like, you don't want to. So I think that in my mindset really helped a lot. I wouldn't say this physical cravings so much with carnivore, but maybe mentally. Because if you go through detox, you really just shouldn't have physical cravings anymore if you did it successfully. But the mental is really the biggest part, and I think carnivore really helps with that a lot. At least in my case. In my case, it did. It does. I don't think about alcohol. I don't have that anxiousness, like when am I going to have another drink and this and that. I don't even have those kind of thoughts, and I just feel too good. I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect cure-all, but I mean, the way I feel today as the way I felt in May, I mean, I feel like a whole different person. Like a totally different person. If you would have told me 6 months ago that I'd be 55 pounds lighter and sober for 200 days, sitting in North Carolina talking to you, I would think you're full of shit. I'm sorry. I would think you're BSing me. I would laugh like, oh yeah, okay. It just seems so unattainable. I don't know if carnivore kind of opened the door maybe to like, I can actually do these things that seemed really, really far away. I mean, being sober seems so far away, like I'll never get there, and getting out of the 200s just seemed like this unsurmountable goal that I would never get to, even though sometimes I'd be kind of close, 215, and I couldn't do it, and I don't know, I just feel like the way of eating has just made me feel like it opens up my mind in a different way that it wasn't before. It's hard to explain. And I'm not a perfect person. I mean, I've had some kind of dark chocolate kick, I guess, for the last 2 weeks. And I wouldn't say daily basis, but maybe the road trip, maybe moving, packing all my stuff, hauling. I don't know. I had some stresses there, not sleeping so well, how am I going to relocate and all the things that come with it. So I was finding that I would have a little bit of dark chocolate, but I didn't punish myself for it. I said, okay, it's dark chocolate with stevia. It's lilies, for goodness sake, calm down.
Did you find it? Do you find it changed your mood or anything like that, or?
Yes, and I think that's weight loss too. I think I feel myself that I'm just a more pleasant person to be around, more happier. And I was a pleasant person. I mean, I'm not saying I was like, oh, I can't be around her. I mean, I always have a fun life of the party kind of person, happy, smiley. But there's still something that kind of drags on you. It's hard to explain. When you're carrying extra weight, I think maybe you just carry a darkness, a sadness. And when you're an alcoholic, it's like a secret. I mean, I don't know. I just always felt like I was carrying something. And I just felt unattractive all the time and ashamed of myself all the time. And it's just like something heavy that's on you. And so I feel lighter. And I feel lighter in my clothes. I feel lighter in my face, but I feel lighter in my spirit too. I don't get so irritated. That's one thing. I'm not so irritated. Like little things will get me irritated. The house isn't clean, or the dishes, or the drive.
Yeah.
I'm just more. I was more irritated and more anxious, and now I find that I feel more happier. I'm more relaxed. I feel like more just lighter. I don't know. That's the best way I can explain it. I don't feel as heavy. I don't feel as heavy physically or mentally. I don't feel like there's something heavy sitting on me anymore. Yeah. And I noticed that like within maybe a month in, like I'm more pleasant and more happier and more positive and just smiling, and I don't know if it was the sobriety too, maybe together. I mean, like not being hungover and you're sober and you feel good. Maybe both of them together, but I would just feel like I was smiling more and I was just happier in general.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the wonderful things about carnivore is that it so helps with evening out your mood. And so many people report feeling happier, less depressed, less anxious. So I would imagine that could only be like a good addition.
Yes, absolutely. And especially when you have bad anxiety, to just go through multiple days where you're not afraid of going to sleep or afraid of this or that, or you don't have a panic attack throughout the middle of the day. I mean, that in itself that's just amazing. I mean, sometimes it could be really bad. So
having that little bit of the chocolate, did that make the anxiety worse, or was it not impactful?
Well, if I just had a little bit, I was fine. But there was maybe, I think the week before we made the move, my stress level was very high, and one day in particular, I had the Lily's bag of chocolate chips. I was like, oh, I'm sweet, they're just chips, and if I have 20, it's only this many carbs.
Yeah.
I think I had like 60 of them. I don't know. They're really small. They're just little tiny chips for baking. But I noticed that I had palpitations because, chocolate is loaded with caffeine. And then that started making me anxious because why am I having a palpitation? So I was like, well, maybe you just overdid it with the chocolate, instead of going into panic mode. Maybe that's probably what happened. So I kind of just scaled back on it. And if I do have some, it's very, very little, a very, very small amount. Because those chocolates can be kind of tricky. They're sugar-free, but they have, not Lily's, but there's another brand, Russell Stover has one, but they have those sugar alcohols in them. And so they really make you, be in the bathroom and mess up your stomach too. But they're so good, and they're like, it's sugar-free. So I don't want to get into this habit now with every day having sugar-free, sugar alcohol chocolate. So I kind of put it to a rest.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I just stick with the coffee now, and I enjoy my coffee. Put some cinnamon and the Splenda in. I seem to be okay with that. I haven't had any more since we've settled in our new home. Yeah, but if I have some, later on, I'm not going to kill myself about it. But I'm not going to make it a daily habit. No.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about how you're going to eat the rest of your life. So it's not about being perfect every day. It's about focusing on what's going to make you feel best and help you to achieve your, life's goals. So,
right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear from you for anybody, to address to anybody who's watching who might not yet have decided to quit drinking, or they're thinking about it and they haven't done it. And, what would you tell them? Like, how do you start? How do you bring these things together? What do you do?
That's a
big question.
That's a hard one because people drink for different reasons. And some people, like I did for many years, what to say, well, drinking is not affecting my life in this way. I still have a job, I still have my house, my kids are taken care of, I'm not on the street, I'm not homeless, I haven't gotten in a car accident, so I'm okay. And so I think that was a big problem for me because I hadn't hit a rock bottom. in other people's definition of what rock bottom was, I would justify that I could keep drinking. Because this didn't have that many carbs and I was sticking to my diet, I would justify to myself that I could keep drinking. So I think for people, I guess it depends how bad it is. For me, I knew it was really bad and it was getting to the point where my health was being affected. And anytime you can't go without something, it's a problem. I think in all areas of our life, we have to be balanced. And that's what I was trying to be more, just be more balanced person. If you're always drinking, you're not a balanced person. And also just dealing with whatever it is that's making you want to drink. And I know for me, I still have a long way to go, but in the last 6 months, I really dealt with some things that would make me always want to drink. So I would just say it's really mindset. You just have to tell yourself, I just don't want to, that's what I told myself. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to feel sick anymore. And I don't want to look in the mirror and be ashamed of myself anymore. And so I think when you really realize that you don't want to do it anymore, when you're done, I don't think it has to be something catastrophic to make you come to that conclusion. Now, for me, I really thought I was having a heart attack this time around. But I'm glad. I'm thankful that that's what brought me to the urgent care, and that's what it is. But I mean, I don't think for everybody you should let it get to that, is what I'm saying. You know, like, don't let it be a rock bottom. Like, really evaluate, is this how you really want to live? Do you want to be hungover every day? Do you want to spend all your money on alcohol? I mean, it makes your face look so ugly. I'm just kidding. I mean, I looked at this picture in April and I was like, oh my God. Like, and I think I'm an attractive looking woman, but I was looking pretty bad there for a minute with the drinking. Like, it really does a number on your face. My goodness. So I just think don't let it be your rock bottom. Don't have a car accident. Don't go to jail. Don't get a DUI. Don't be in a hospital. Don't let it get to that point. You know, just say, enough is enough. And I also think if you need medical intervention, then you should seek it, because medicine does have its place for certain things. I don't go to the doctor. I don't believe in blood pressure pills, and maybe I need one, cholesterol. I mean, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go to the doctor for that. But I really feel for this, I needed medical intervention, and I sought it out, and I'm very thankful that I did. And I don't think you should be embarrassed about it, because for me, that was a big reason why I didn't get the help, because feeling embarrassed. I'm a medical professional. I have to admit that I'm an alcoholic. And just because you're alcoholic doesn't mean you're a bad person. You can't do your job. Of course you can, but the stigma that comes attached, you don't want to say, because the nurses will look at you like, you're a nurse, better. Like, what are you doing? Like, people always say that to me, when you're a nurse, like, you're a nurse. Like, but so it stops you from seeking assistance. So I think not to be ashamed, and if you really need help, admit that you need the help and get it, and just do it, because the rewards on the other side are just so far greater. I think what it is, when you're in your sickness and you're in your addiction, you can't see the other side. I cannot see in the beginning, even in July and August, I can't see, like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to be sober? How am I going to go to the lake? How am I going to go camping without a beer? Like, how can I do it? How am I going to go to a concert without a drink? Like, how am I going to celebrate New Year's Eve? Like, you can't imagine what it would be like, but you know what? You can do it.
Well, how will you celebrate New Year's Eve? We just had Thanksgiving. We're going into Christmas and New Year's Eve. So how are you going to handle those?
I'll be in the bed and say Happy New Year. That I made it to the next day. I go to bed by 10 or 10:30 now. I really appreciate
be in the bed.
These 6 months have really taught me how important sleep is. Actually, I know I didn't touch on that, and we've been talking forever, but I really appreciate the value of sleep. I mean, I feel like I've been without good sleep for years. And drinking sleep is nothing like the sleep I have now. I go to sleep and I know when it's time to go to sleep. My body lets me know. I fall asleep with ease. I sleep the whole night through with no interruptions. I do not wake up in the middle of the night in a panic attack or a withdrawal situation. Yeah. I wake up in the morning refreshed. I sleep really, really well, and I really appreciate it, and I'm grateful, because I haven't known what good sleep is like for years. I was afraid to go to sleep sometimes. Seriously, maybe I wouldn't wake back up because my drinking was so bad or I was so unhealthy.
Yeah.
So I don't mind New Year's Eve, Happy New Year, have a steak and go to bed. Maybe I'll work a shift that day. They probably need some nurses that night, make some overtime. I'm okay
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with not drinking many, many bottles of champagne like I usually
Okay.
do.
Good. And before you said you don't believe in medicine, like for high blood pressure and stuff. So does that mean you want to use a diet to control those symptoms and to improve your health?
Yes, I
So for people who are watching who have high blood pressure, I'm not suggesting you should stop taking it right away. You should become a carnivore and reduce your blood pressure.
Right. I'm not suggesting that at all, like I said, but it's just for all the years that I've been in nursing, and especially with some of the black people. Like I even have a couple of black coworkers, and I would tell them, like, you got to get off those pills. Like I believe insulin and high blood pressure pills are just trash. And what happens is you end up needing more medication, especially with diabetic medication. It's like, okay, so you're going to start out on 20 units of NPH or SNAP, but before you know it, you're on 50 units, and then you take Lantus at night, and then you're giving yourself regular insulin after the meal. And it doesn't decrease. If anything, they just keep adding more on top of it. So if you can just control it with eating, that would just take away the problem. So yeah,
become a carnivore. That's going to be the best solution.
At least be ketogenic. I mean,
yeah.
Maybe you can't be a carnivore, but at least adopt a ketogenic lifestyle for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I remember Dr. Kim Berry. I think it's Dr. Kim Berry that I followed when he said one ingredient foods. And I was telling my son, you just need to eat foods that are one ingredient. And I wasn't even talking carnivore. I'm like, even if you eat an apple, it's one ingredient. It's better than having a bag of fruit snacks. And you can combine one ingredient foods together, steak and butter, I mean, I'm just giving an example. I mean, I'm sure butter has salt, whatever, more than one ingredient, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. Nothing in a bag, nothing in a box is really what I'm trying to show him. I think and my youngest son too is going to be more of a challenge, but if all of us would just stick to one ingredient foods, we would not have half the problems that we have now.
Yeah.
Most people would need medication.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting something that you said earlier about you were on keto and you were still drinking. You were keeping your carbs below 50 grams. I assume that's what you were going for, but you still weren't losing weight. And, I feel like I had, at a certain point, I've sort of hit the same thing where, even though I kept my carbs under 50 grams, like I still wasn't making progress. And I think there's something different about alcohol and sugar. It just doesn't operate the same way in our body. So if I were getting, that amount of carbs from eating, let's say vegetables, I think I probably still would have been losing. And I wonder what you think about that.
I totally agree with that. Like for keto, like I said, I lost those 40 pounds in 2017 very quickly in 2 months. And I actually kept my carbohydrates under 25. But sometimes
so that's like 5 glasses of wine.
That's what I'm saying. So I actually had a lot of carnivore days because I was like, no, these carbs is for my drink. And so after a certain point, I couldn't get down anymore. Like I just, I wouldn't gain, but I wouldn't lose either. And so I really think that, like you said, alcohol must function differently. I know your body wants to metabolize it first because it's a toxin. It just wants to get it out. And so I know that, but I wasn't losing with the alcohol. No, I know for sure. And then some days I wouldn't even eat at all. And I would just, drink because I had lost the desire for food. And that sometimes happens with chronic alcoholism. You just really don't want to eat, or you eat very minimally, but there's calories in alcohol. And, there is calories in alcohol. So your body's, I guess, was holding on to whatever little nutrition it got, and it just wouldn't let you lose anything. I'm assuming because I wouldn't be able to lose a pound, and there would be days that I didn't eat anything at all. So I just think you're right. I think the body just handles it and processes it differently, and I don't think you can be a successful carnivore, or I should say carnivore, successful in a weight loss, sustainable, and be drinking all the time. I just don't think it will happen. It didn't for me. Yeah. That's why I could never get over that 225 hump. I just stayed there. And I just couldn't go any down because I was still drinking all the time.
And I find it really interesting that people who drink on carnivore, just tend to drink less and less. So, they might have gone from a couple of nights a week having a whiskey to, cup maybe once or twice a month and just not doing it anymore. So there's something about eating this way that really just takes away that desire for it, or it makes it very unpleasurable. I know I had like half a shot of alcohol once, and man, I was hungover for 4 days, and I was like, no, never, ever again. It was the worst.
This is another thing too. I think the fear also keeps me so. It's the motivation of the weight loss, the feeling good, but fear. And that's okay. That's gonna be my motivation. I'm scared. I don't want to know what the next hangover will feel like. Like, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to know. And if that's gonna keep me sober too, then I'm okay with it. I'm scared.
I mean, I was having a tincture, so it's not even, I wasn't even drinking for pleasure, and it wasn't even that much, but it was enough that it just knocked me. It was just a horrible. So don't do it. That's what I try to tell people who thinking about going carnivore. Just be forewarned. You will get wasted off the most ridiculously small amount of alcohol, and it will be terrible, and you could get really sick.
Right.
Really, really sick.
I believe that. Yeah. I'm too scared to chance it, so I'm okay.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Don't do it. And and I feel so much. It's so nice to not ever be hungover.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I've not forgotten what it feels like to be hungover, and it's so nice to know that I could be woken up at any moment in the night, and I could, if I needed to, I could get up and deal with whatever the situation was. There's no like struggle with being, drunk or hungover. So, yeah.
Right. And just being aware of yourself and your surroundings and remembering every aspect of the night, or it's just it's a good feeling. And not spending so much money. I mean, I would say my grocery bill is high because I'm eating now, so I don't look at it as bad, because I used to spend a ton of money on alcohol, but I just feel like I spend money like a normal person who grocery shops abundantly, like they're supposed to, because I wasn't really doing that before. But any day that I would spend 100, 200 on the meat, I don't feel bad about it at all. I'm happy to do it than spend my money on how I was spending it before. I'm too excited.
Well, I am so impressed, inspired, and proud of you. I think that what you have done is just tremendous. And I know that everybody listening to this story, has really been touched by, just your bravery. This is hard, and, your willingness to come out here and talk about it too. I really, really appreciate it. And how, there's going to be somebody, years in the future is going to be Googling, somehow come across this video on YouTube, and they're just going to be like, oh my God, this is exactly what I needed to hear. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for saying that. Thank you so much. If I could help one person not to go through what I went through for 15 years, it would all be worth it. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. So I hope that you enjoyed today, and I will see you soon. Have a wonderful holiday season, and I will just stay tuned for next time.
Bye.